ASEAN Highlight this week, we take a look at Myanmar's ethnic relations as the Human Rights Watch released its finding on Monday. And then we review the Thai-Cambodian bilateral relation as the recent tension translates into a street protest in Bangkok. And then we visit an ASEAN Contemporary Art Exhibition where the finest artists from the region display their works.
On Monday this week, Human Rights Watch released a report on Myanmar saying the situation remained dire in 2010, even after the country's first multi-party elections in 20 years. The report accused the ruling State Peace and Development Council of systematically denying all basic freedoms to citizens, where the rights of freedom of expression, association, assembly, and media remained severely curtailed. Furthermore, the report accused the junta of being responsible for internally displacing over 500,000 people, not to mention millions who have to leave the country, either as refugees or migrant workers, because of its attacks on civilians in ethnic areas, and the uneasy peace that has persisted in these areas over the past 2 decades. The report also contributes the Myanmar government's moves of transforming ethnic militias into border guard force units under direct control from Naypyidaw as one of the key factors that increased tensions between the central government and the ethnic groups, resulting in greater frequency and intensity of skirmishes and armed clashes in ethnic areas.
In November last year, Daw Aung San Suu Kyi told our news correspondent this when asked about the ethnic conflict in Myanmar.
I think a lot of these ethnic armed groups have come to the conclusion that the best way to resolve problems is by talking to each other. It's just that I think they have not had sufficient opportunities for genuine negotiation.
The idea of negotiation has been raised several times by many observers of Myanmar's politics. Suu Kyi first raised it in 1989 as she toured the city of Panglong in Shan State, a site where her father, General Aung San, met with the ethnic leaders in February of 1947 and signed an agreement that aimed to serve as a blueprint for a federal system that basically ensures fair treatment and consideration to interests of ethnic minorities. The blueprint dies along with the death of Aung San later that same year. And until now, the political development in Myanmar reveals how the distrust and tension persisted between the ethnic groups and the junta. And while the release of Daw Aung San Suu Kyi in November last year reignited hope for a second Panglong, this time between the pro-democracy camp, the ethnic nationalities and the junta, the prospect of Suu Kyi leading the new conference does not look promising since her movement could still lead to her arrest again. Since the holding of the country's first election in 20 years, the junta seems to be quietly confident that they can proceed on their own roadmap to democracy, and this has a lot to do with the support it has gained from abroad, particularly through China, India, and ASEAN. If this continues, the chance for a second Panglong look rather slim. The hope that all conflicting parties in Myanmar can negotiate and end the vicious cycle of conflicts that began since independence now lies solely on the willingness of the junta themselves. As Thai and Cambodian government trying to work out their differences, the recent tension has brought out street protests in Bangkok. More in this report.
Tension has somewhat eased between Thailand and Cambodia this week after Phnom Penh removed the controversial concrete block in front of Wat Kaew Sikha Kiri Sawara with an engraved message in Khmer accusing Thai troops of having invaded Cambodian territory in the disputed border area. The government of both countries have so far shown a degree of restraint after their border forces were put on full alert midweek. Thai Foreign Minister Kasit Pirom reveals that he will discuss border disputes with Cambodian authority early next month at the Joint Commission or JC for bilateral cooperation meeting in Siem Reap.
Meanwhile, in Thailand, the tension at its border with Cambodia has translated into the return of the nationalist Yellow Shirt People's Alliance for Democracy, or the PAD, onto the streets of Bangkok. The police have estimated that more than 2,500 protesters descended on the areas near Government House on Tuesday afternoon, and the authority predicts that their number could grow over time. The PAD demands Prime Minister Apisit to revoke an agreement with Cambodia on settling border disputes that was inked in a memorandum of understanding in the year 2000. They also demands Thai authority to pressure Cambodians to move out of the disputed areas, as well as withdrawing the kingdom from the UN Cultural Agency, UNESCO. The Apisit government has rejected these demands. The PAD spokesperson, Pan has this to say when asked about how long they plan to hold the rally and whether they are willing to negotiate with the government.
It depends on the government. If government don't do anything, we still keep our protest right here. All right. We negotiate for 2 years already, but they don't do anything. That's why we are here.
For the PAD, the stage is set for a long siege against the government. They have threatened to impeach the Prime Minister and his deputy, Suthep Thaugsuban, as well as call for the removal of Thai Foreign Minister Kasit Pirom, who was once a PAD supporter. The Yellow Shirt alleged that the current government handling of the border dispute has led to the loss of Thai territory and sovereignty. Their fiery rhetoric utilized nationalism to mobilize their own power base and intended on driving a wedge between the Democrat-led government and the military. The opposition, meanwhile, accused that the PAD protests could be used as a pretext for a military coup, something that the Apisit government has dismissed. It remains to be seen what will happen in Thailand, and meanwhile, the war rhetoric employed by the PAD does very little to improve bilateral relations between Thailand and Cambodia in the current political climate. And now we wrap things up by visiting a contemporary art exhibition in Bangkok, where the artists from China, Singapore and Thailand display their works.
This visual art performance by André Weschler, a French artist who has been practicing her art in Asia for more than 15 years, is called Talk to Myself, where she has experimented with the color white and collaborated with her past performance on screen. The piece was part of the opening of the Asian Pulse, China and ASEAN Contemporary Art Exhibition, being held at the Bangkok Art and Culture Center until March the 13th of this year.
The performance I just did is a collaboration with myself. So it's the first time I do that, and because the artists spend a lot of time, any artist spend a lot of time thinking about the work and how it happened, especially performance art. It's something we cannot control. It's something that happens in the time. There's no rehearsal. I have an idea, I have a concept, but I don't rehearse. So every time I perform, it's a surprise for the audience, but for me too. Because there's the spontaneity, there's a lot of things we don't control. The artist does the work, but there's the space, the audience, and everything together it's a chemistry and becomes an artwork.
The exhibition aims to showcase contemporary artworks from Chinese, Thai and Singaporean artists, and one of the organizers, Amarit Chusuwan, told us how the show sprang from the 6th Songzhuang Art and Culture Festival, which was held in Beijing in September of last year. He also told us how the artists here plan to include more of their colleagues from the ASEAN region.
ก็คืออันหนึ่งที่เป็นเรื่องที่เราอยากทำก็คือหมายถึงว่าให้ศิลปินมาร่วมกันเองโดยที่ไม่ต้องไปรอเรื่องอื่นก่อนคือหมายถึงว่าเราจะต้องเดินด้วยความเป็นงานศิลปะซะก่อนที่จะไปถึงผู้สนับสนุนหรืออะไรก็ตามแต่นะฮะเพื่อให้มันเกิดเส้นทางซะก่อนนะศิลปินจีนเองเนี่ยเขาก็สนใจและในขณะเดียวกันแล้วก็คิดว่าถ้าหากว่าเราทำกันอยู่แค่2ประเทศเนี่ยเดี๋ยวมันก็จะจบเพราะฉะนั้นเราน่าจะที่จะมองเห็นความเป็นเพื่อนได้มากกว่านี้พอค้นหามันก็มีสิงคโปร์เข้ามานะฮะแล้วเราก็คุยกันทุกคนก็เห็นด้วยที่จะทำงานร่วมกันในลักษณะที่เป็นเหมือนกับเป็น Artist Society พูดง่ายๆ
Amarit stresses that the idea of the exhibition came from the artists themselves, and that the plan to include more artists from other Southeast Asian countries to the project came about by the shared desire to promote a sense of friendship among fellow artists in the region. It also further emphasized the state of the contemporary art scene in Asia.
So I think ASEAN is a very happening space for the art scenes. And I'm glad that I'm in the show here in Bangkok because I think Thai people, they are very creative as well. You know, when you switch on the TV, you look at the commercial arts, they are all very creative, very humor. I like it very much. So I think ASEAN is start to pick up all this humor and creative things from the West. And then, of course, East has its own strength and elements as well. So it's a good combination of both East and West. So my works is always about East and West, a mix of culture. So as an artist myself, right, I think it's going to be very happening in Asia.
That's it for ASEAN Highlight this week. And on behalf of the ASEAN desk here, I hope you all have a lovely weekend and Swadee Krap.